Well, this is episode 27 in our baseball journey. The story of my wife Carol and my George Freestone's visit to all 30 major league ballparks and several obsolete ones. And as in all of the prior episodes, I've tried to wear some appropriate garb. Well, my t-shirt is for the visiting Cubs at Truist Park. And my cap is an interesting one. The B has a particular script, and when I've asked people who've seen the cap what team that is for, I get varied answers from the Brooklyn Dodgers to the Boston Red Sox, but no, it's actually the Boston Braves. And when we were at SunTrust ballpark, which has since been renamed Truist, I inquired if I could buy a Boston Braves cap at any of the shops at the ballpark, and they said indeed there was one that had them, and so I went forth and came away with this Boston Braves ball cap. The Boston Braves will appear as well when we talk a little bit about the slide, but I want to start by saying this is the conclusion of a trip that we took where we drove all the way to Miami from our home in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, and then came home. And we were on our homeward trek here. We woke up, I think, on May 16th in Jacksonville, Florida. And why is that significant? Well, let me share the slide and answer that question. Let me move me. As I said, in May of 2018, the park was SunTrust. It has since been rechristened Truist. But we woke up in Jacksonville on May 16th, and we had been following the weather for several days. And I think we were in Jacksonville the evening of May 15th. And so, having checked the weather, we noticed that there was rain forecast, actually, both for May 16th and May 17th. Now, we were only scheduled to be in Atlanta for May 16th and May 17th. Well, we had done something, or I had done something in scheduling the game that we would see that I don't typically do. And that is schedule the game for the last day that we are in a particular city or the last game in a particular series, particularly if the home team is leaving. So this was the end of a series between the Braves and the Cubs. And it concluded on May 17th, the day that we actually had tickets for. So after we got into Jacksonville on May 15th, I called up my friends at SunTrust Park and said, hey, here's the deal. And I explained our getting to see all the different ballparks, and we were excited about coming to SunTrust, and that we had tickets for the 17th, but it looked like rain. And in the event rain occurred and the game was canceled, we were kind of in trouble. So I pleaded with them. I said, look, I've checked. I don't think your game on the 16th is sold out. It's forecast to be a little bit wet on that day anyway. How about we do a little switcheroo with regard to the tickets? Could we exchange our tickets for the 17th for the same general area of the ballpark for May 16th? That would give us two chances to get this game in rather than just one. And the first response that I got from the SunTrust customer service folks was, well, we don't normally do that. And my response was, well, we aren't normally in Atlanta either. So, how about you consider what you might be able to do? And so, after elevating this up the chain, we were successful in exchanging the tickets for the 17th for the same area of the ballpark on the day prior, on May 16th. And if we fast forward and tell the story about what actually transpired, May 16th was wet, but they got the entire game in. May 17th, as you see in this picture with the headline, the game was postponed. So we made the right choice. Okay, this particular game, the box score again is right here, and you can see that the score was 4-1. The favored Braves beat the still doing pretty well Chicago Cubs at that point in time in the season. And it was a long game because of the weather. It was a 3 hour game. There was 15 or so hits with the Cubs actually out hitting the Braves, but that really didn't matter as the Braves ended up taking this game, as it says in this bullet right here. And you can see in the pictures, this one is solarized. This one is intense green as well. And the overcast skies here, it was a wet game on the 16th, but we got it all in and it was a lot of fun. Photos from the game and from our visits to various areas within Atlanta can be found at this particular link right here, that photo link. Okay, this park where you can see entertainment out front. Um, there's actually quite a number of restaurants in the Battery area right outside the park. So this is the second park in Atlanta that we saw. We had been to Turner Field a little bit earlier in our sequence of ballparks visited, and there's a earlier episode that you can watch all about that one with a pretty funny story too. But this particular park, owing to the Battery, owing to the nature of the park, owing to the entertainment and the restaurants, this actually is my wife Carol's favorite park. So this is at the top of her list. And for those of you who don't remember, my favorite park is Camden Yards. Okay, now if we go back to my cap, you can see here I'm holding on to the ice cream plastic caps that we have enjoyed. This is my wife Carol and myself. I'm wearing my Brooklyn Dodgers jersey, and I have this particular cap on as well. Um, but the Boston Braves show up here as well because how many of you know that Babe Ruth finished his career with the Boston Braves? And this is actually Babe Ruth's jersey um, that is in some of the display areas if you walk around the concourses inside. In addition to Babe Ruth and the Boston Braves, this in the lower left is a quote from one of my Met heroes, Warren Spahn, who spent most of his career with the Braves. And he says, what is life, after all, but a challenge? And what better challenge can there be than between the pitcher and the hitter? Now, Warren Spahn, Hall of Famer, great quote, and I was pleased to see that. Being a Mets fan, it was kind of tough actually being in the home of the dreaded enemy, the Atlanta Braves. But at any rate, moving along, the race that they have in the seventh or so inning is a series of tools. We've had sausages, for example, at Miller Park in Milwaukee. Well, here in SunTrust, we have a tool race, and here you can see some of the tools running around the perimeter of the outfield. Prior to the game, they were here outside the park in the battery area as well. This park also was interesting in that they had all kinds of activities around the park as well, including climbing and other enjoyable attractions that you could play a part with. Okay, Blooper. What is Blooper? Well, Blooper is the mascot of the Braves, and here's Blooper proudly up top, and here he is taking the first pitch before the game started. We had a kiss cam. Many of the parks do this, and there's many pictures of the kiss cam activity here at this link if you're so inclined. Now, one of the things that we did that was significant while we were in the Atlanta area is we took the 25-mile from downtown Atlanta journey to visit Stone Mountain, which is a tribute to the Confederates from the Civil War. On the side of Stone Mountain is a image that contains these three Confederate leaders, Jefferson Davis, Robert E. Lee, and Stonewall Jackson. But there's more to do in Stone Mountain as well. You can actually ride a train. Here's a train that's the Stone Mountain Railroad or whatever. And they have a dinosaur park as well. And here's a Triceratops from that particular dino park. Finally, leaving the Atlanta area after a very enjoyable game and stay, even though it was kind of wet, and you can actually see the wet here under the entertainers in the battery area outside the park. We departed and we drove to Davidson, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte, and visited a new complement of my brother's family in terms of the children that were home at that point in time. So we saw that family on the way south as we were headed to first Savannah and then the two Florida ballparks. And then we saw my brother's family on the way home as well. And finally, we we stopped in Roanoke, Virginia, to try and manage the distance on the ride home for us to get back to Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. And it was still wet in Roanoke, Virginia. The only picture I have from Roanoke is this clock uh, that has a special rendition. It was a very lovely city that we'd like to get back to as well. We had a great meal in Roanoke as well. Now I'm going to stop sharing and I'll come back and just close out with a little bit more about this t-shirt. For those of you who have watched the earlier episodes, you'll know that we saw the Cubs play a game in 2016 prior to the end of the 2016 season, of course. And at that game, we saw from behind a banner for a woman in front of us who predicted that the Cubs were going to win the World Series. She did that in the middle of the season, and her banner was, hey, this is the year 2016 that I've licked cancer, and it's going to be the year that the Cubs win the series, and indeed they did. So, thanks for your attention in this episode, all about Atlanta, SunTrust Truist. Our next stop is going to be a road trip following some flights out to San Francisco, where we took in the largest number of ballparks on any particular road trip. We're going to start with a stop at the Oakland Coliseum. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for your attention.